If you've ever heard that noise, it's not one you'll easily forget. I remember being with my friend. We were travelling through Spain. It was pitch black. There was no civilization around. We were right in the middle of nowhere. And across the mountain, we could hear the noise of the wolves howling. And it is such an impressive sound to hear. Now, as impressive as it is something you would expect when you're in the middle of nowhere in a country that has wolves. But how would you feel if you're in the middle of a city centre in Britain and you heard that noise? Well, I came across an article in our newspaper, the Wales Online, and this is what it had. And you see from this that people were putting up these stickers saying that wolves were spotted a wolf was spotted in Cardiff in a big urban area of Grangetown. They said it was found scavenging in bins, etc. And somebody even said that they caught an image of this wolf, and here's the image. Now, obviously, this story was found to be untrue. There aren't wolves in Britain anymore, but it made me think, when was the last wolf spotted in Britain? And how and why did it die out? So I thought I'd have a little look at that. There's a story in Wales about a famous dog called Gelert. Now, the story was set in the 13th century around Llywelyn, who was the Prince of North Wales. Now, Llywelyn had gone out hunting, and on his return, when he came to the house, he found his dog, and his dog was covered in blood. He looked over and he could see the cot of this dog. His child, the heir to the throne, was no longer there. The prince, thinking that Gelert, the dog, had killed the child, then took out his sword and killed his faithful dog. And as his dog was dying, he could then hear the cries of an infant. And when he looked underneath the cot, there was his baby, who was fine, and next to him was the body of a wolf. And the story goes that Gelert had killed the wolf in protecting the child. Now, Llywelyn, who was so overcome with remorse for killing his faithful dog who'd actually protected his child, was said to have never smiled again. He then buried his dog in a place which is then called, to this day, Bedd Gelert, and that is how the story goes. So this is folklore. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. But there is a place in Wales, in the West Wales, called Wolf's Castle, and that claims to be the place where the last ever wolf in Wales was slain. Now, it's near a place where the famous national hero in Wales, Owen Glyndwr, was born. But this was around 1359, where the last ever wolf was said to be seen in Wales. In Scotland, during the reign of King James VI, wolves were considered such a threat to travellers that special houses called spittals were erected on the highways for protection. In Sutherland, wolves dug up graves so frequently that the inhabitants of Edrechillis resorted to burying their dead on the island of Handa. Wolves probably became extinct in the Scottish lowlands during the 13th to 15th century, when immense tracts of land of forest were cleared. James I passed a law in 1427 requiring 3 wolf hunts a year between the 25th of April and the 1st of August, and this was to coincide with the wolf's cubbing season. The Scottish wolf population, though, reached a peak, it was said, during the second half of the 16th century. Mary, Queen of Scots, is known to have hunted wolves in the forest of Athol in 1563. James VI made it compulsory to hunt wolves 3 times a year. Stories of the killing of the alleged last wolf of Scotland vary. Official records indicate that the last Scottish wolf was killed by Sir Ewan Cameron in 1680 in Killiecrankie, Perthshire. But there are reports that wolves survived in Scotland up until the 18th century, and a tale exists of one being seen as late as 1888. So, if that wolf is true, that was in Grangetown, well, it's outlived all the others through all of Britain. What a survival. We know it isn't true, but you can still see wolves in Britain. There are a couple of places in Britain where they are kept in private areas and they're not always open to the public to go and see, but some are, and you can go and see a wolf in its habitat as it would have lived freely those centuries ago.